Hello, I'm Amy Zaby with the Jerusalem Connection Red Alert Report for Wednesday, September 4. Where is the outrage? In a recent published article in Breaking News Israel, an old issue made it to the public for viewing. Not that many of the public may have viewed it. And certainly, if members of the BADS campaign did, they are showing their true colors of hating Jews in Israel more than their own desire to help Palestinians, which by definition makes their cause anti-Semitic. Someone needs to inform the squad, as well as college campuses across the Western world, of Breaking News Israel's article. Let's go back and get some context. Palestinian refugee camps have existed for decades in Syria, Lebanon, and Jordan. These refugees who originally fled to these places in or about 1948 did so not because the newly formed Israel had in any way expelled them, but because these Arabs fled for two reasons: a fear of war and the call by neighboring Arab nations for them to flee so that an annihilation could occur and then they could return to the land which would be Jew-free. Well, history proved that no such annihilation occurred, and Israel prevailed and her independence secured. Now, Palestinians in the region share a language, religion, and a culture with these close relatives, I call brothers and sisters, in Lebanon, Syria, and Jordan. And yet, through the decades, these folks were never integrated into their host society. On the flip side, after 1948, when Jews were literally expelled, oftentimes with only their clothes on their back, from communities where they lived for generations and established property and business and wealth. Well, they fled to Israel as refugees, and they were fully integrated into Israeli society as citizens. So there lies the difference between what Jews consider a brother and what Muslims consider a brother. Recent protests in Gaza by Gazans against their own leadership, well, this is going unrecognized by the mainstream press. Corruption and oppression by their own leadership goes uncited by major news organization, and Israel is still pointed at as the bully and the bad guy for the situation. Now, back to the article in Breaking News Israel. Recent issues in Lebanon among the refugee camps are indeed raising the ire of many Lebanese. The Palestinians in Lebanon were likely hoping that their protests would rally some Lebanese behind them. But instead, Palestinians seem to have alienated their Lebanese hosts who consider Palestinians second-class citizens and are actually eager to have them leave. Now, this is not new news. It just may be new to you. Lebanon has a discriminatory and apartheid practice and measures against Palestinians. According to the UNRWA, Palestinians in Lebanon are and have been excluded from key facets of social, political, and economic life. Palestinian refugees face legal restrictions and legal limited rights, including prohibited in working in 39 professions. They are not allowed to own property, and they have limited access for services such as health and education. They are also not allowed to apply in any way for Lebanese citizenship. Professions that remain prohibited for Palestinians include healthcare, engineering, transport, fishing, public sector, and law. There's a crackdown right now in Lebanon on illegal workers, and the Lebanese government is citing some genuine security concerns. Security concerns. When Israel says it has security concerns, it is poo-pooed and considered illegitimate. So, back to Lebanon. It takes little imagination to predict what global uproar it would be if Israel were to, say, ban Arabs from working as engineers, cab drivers, nurses, or physicians. The international community and pro-Palestinian groups, however, seem distinctly indifferent about the same issues ongoing with Palestinians in neighboring Arab nations. What would be the outcry if a prominent Israeli figure were to, say, tweet something like, those burning Palestinians in ovens because they're frustrated with their presence? Yet, a well-known Arab did just that. And the self-proclaimed pro-Palestinian activists have gone silent. Yet, this was tweeted by an Lebanese actress who actually had many come to her defense, saying that she was merely defending the Lebanese worker. Where's Omar and Talib on this? Where's their outrage? Oh, and Talib's family? The oppressed family living in the West Bank, well, they live in a 3-story mansion that exceeds the luxury of most American middle-class homes. Various cousins and family members are found on social media posting pictures of themselves with their new luxury European vehicles. And a study recently released noted that Tlaib's family's hometown in the West Bank is one of the most affluent towns in the region. So this crybaby call about how her family is so oppressed and is suffering and that she can't visit them, well, this is completely fabricated. Moreover, Tlaib canceled the trip to see her family, which had always been slated for approval, when it was revealed that the U.S. taxpayer wouldn't pay for it and that she'd have to pay for that trip herself. And she took a stance, noting publicly that she couldn't go to Palestine under such conditions. Keep in mind, when Tlaib and Omar post about their frustrations about not going to the Middle East, they never even say we can't go to Israel. They keep referring to the area as Palestine. This information should wake up every Westerner who even has a sniff of or hear tells of a BDS movement campaign. Moreover, Jews in the U.S. need to remain loyal to themselves. And the word loyal is not a trigger. It just means call out hate and oppression and double standards when you see it. I am sick of seeing Jewish people rail against Trump's reaction to Tlaib and Omar instead of addressing Tlaib and Omar. You can do both, but at least address the original person who brings up the topics. Albert Einstein denounced anti-Semitism amongst U.S. academia decades ago, but his statements are very relative today, and one of his letters that he penned is up for auction currently. I'd like to read you just a little bit of it. He says, Albert Einstein, "This hostile attitude of universities towards Jewish teaching staff and students has been increasing perilously, and even though it manifests as a genteel or hypocritical matter. Unfortunately, the current Jewish leaders do not comprehend the seriousness of the situation, similar to the German Jews in the time before Hitler. They believe that they are able to put an end to the problem by being silent and disregarding it, and they thus miss the time for creating support. This is not just true for the functions of the educational system, of course, but in economic and social terms as well." This scientist was so wise on matters outside his realm of science. We should all be listening to Albert Einstein's reflection on history, his reflection on his current time period, and how it foreshadows as applicable to even this day. It is not just the obligation of the Jew to defend his or her heritage and identity. It is the obligation of all of God's people to do so. Christians must be louder and stronger against the growing and underreported Christian genocide ongoing in Africa and the Middle East. Our loyalty to our brethren does not have any duality to it. Our loyalty is to our people wherever they may be. We are in this together. It is no accident that Jews and Christians are the foremost groups at the crosshairs of annihilation generation after generation, and it can slip into our society quietly if we are quiet ourselves, and we just try to hope and pray that maybe the political groups we are aligned with will turn their ways, and that simply does not happen. Shavua Tov. Have a great week.